We have moved on to the wings, and we're going to tackle that next. I know a lot of people have asked about it to see how wings go on these things. But one thing I wanted to do really quick, I had someone ask me a question about how to export these files or parts into a format that will you can transfer to a laser, CNC, or whatever. I'm just going to do the real simple version, and later on I'm going to tackle how to achieve that with these curved surfaces on the fuselage sides. That's a little more involved process, but real quick, I just want to show how you can do these flat pieces into exporting into a file that you can send to Lightburn or whatever you're doing for your CNC operations. It's really not too difficult, and let me turn off all of these things, and I'm going to do this top piece here, and I'll show you how that works. Well, we could just do that's this is fine. So this piece is flat, which makes it it's almost ready to go like it is. But you know, we have these holes, and we have these tabs, and we have these slots, tabs, and these other shapes. What I do, and there's several ways, and there's some videos out there that talk about doing this, but the simplest way to do it is you click on the face of what it is that you want to export. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say create sketch, and then that will select this, and we want to project all of this outline and these shapes here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit P for project, and I'm going to hit specified entities, not the whole body. Sometimes that can get a little strange and sometimes not. But if you notice, when I hover over this, you see all that red. So those are the lines that are going to get projected into this new sketch. So I'm going to click on that, and that selects all that, and I'm going to say OK. And from here we can finish the sketch. Okay, and then we need to find our sketch. Let's go ahead and turn, well, that sketch is up here because this was selected. So here's the sketch, and we can turn the body off. And if you look, this shows our outline, and we have our slots, you know, for everything here. I'm going to right click on the sketch, and you go save as DXF. Really simple. And I have some different spots here that I save things in, and I'm just going to create a new folder here, and this is the Scout. I'm going to call this cut files for me, but you call whatever. This is just my way of sorting things. And then I'm going to save this as Fuse Top, and I'm going to put the material in there. And normally what I do, I'll show you real quick. Alright, so I'm going to save that like that. So now if we go to my Finder here, and here's my folder, and usually what I like to do is I will make all these parts. There's my aluminum parts. These are my 3/16 balsa parts, and like fuselage parts are broken down by the different materials on here. And I'm going to cut this airplane out soon, so I'll show you all what that looks like. So now what I do, I use Lightburn to drive my lasers. So it's just a simple matter of importing it into Lightburn, and it's in this. Where's our folder? Where did the Scout? There we go. Man, I'm blind this morning. And then I hit open, and then there it is. So, you know, depending on your workflow in laser, which we can get into later on what I do for laser. And there we go. That's the part exported into our machine, or our software that talks to our machine. All right, so let's That's the simple one. We will get into more complicated parts later on. All right, now we're going to go back into Fusion, and I really don't need this right now, so I'm just going to undo what I did, and then we're going to go back to talking about wings. Okay, so we need to create a new component. Again, always create new components. And we're going to call this, I always build one wing and then I mirror the whole component. That way you only have to build it once. So I'm going to call this left wing. All right, now we have the left wing highlighted, and let's go turn on our canvas. And let's see if we get our side profile canvas. Yeah, for some reason, this thing got really slow when dealing with some of these canvases, and I'm not totally sure why. Okay. I'm going to turn the fuselage off for now, and I don't need these others. All I need is this right here. So this wing has some dihedral built into it, and it tells us what that is. With ailerons is 2 1/4. Without ailerons is 4 1/4. So I'm not a math genius, and there's trigonometry that's involved there, and it's really simple, but I don't want to think that hard. So what I'm going to do is measure this distance from the center of the wing to the edge of this last rib, which is where this height is measured, to get our dihedral. So let's create a sketch on this plane, and I just want to draw me a line to measure that, which is there, and let's go to here. So out to there, it's 24 inches roughly. That'll work for us. And I don't need that line, so I can get rid of that. Okay, I don't even need this sketch. Let's just undo this right here. Okay, so 24 inches, and at 24 inches, this length, and then we know this number, but we don't know this number, and we don't know what the angle is. And there are some calculators online that work pretty well for that. Let's see here. All right, I can't remember what it was. Let's try this. Angle calculator. Yeah, this Omni calculator is absolutely fantastic. So we know A, which is going to be 2 1/4, right? We know C, which is 24. So that means B is 23.894, which is handy. So if you can't find that, it's omnicalculator.com. It has lots and lots of different calculators to save you a lot of time. And it also gives me this angle, because I need this angle here. So angle A is 5.379. I'm going to simplify that and go 5 degrees. All right, so I'm going to create a plane on an angle for right here at the bottom of our wing. And the bottom of this wing is going to work fine. If you're working with a symmetrical airfoil or semi-symmetrical airfoil, you'll want to use the datum line to create your dihedral line. Okay, so let's go ahead. I keep and start a sketch here. And what I want to do is just draw a guideline at the bottom of this, and that's good. And we can actually finish this sketch for now, and I'm gonna go up to construct, and I want to create a plane at an angle, and I want to select that, and we want it to be 5 degrees. If you want it more, you can do it more. Now you notice this angle would be going the wrong way on our left wing, So we need to go -5. So I'm going to go -5, and now we're going to go up on the left wing, which is what we want. So there we go. So we have that. And now let's go back to this first sketch we did for that guideline. And I'm going to edit that sketch. So I'm going to go here and start drawing our wing profile. Now, there are ways to import specific airfoils into Fusion, and I will get into that at a later date. But for now, we're just going to trace this with our control point spline tool. And the one thing you want as few as splines as possible. You get too many, things will start getting wonky. And again, defining these sketches is very important. I can't stress that enough. We can actually take this line and we'll convert that to a regular line. If you notice, I didn't click here. You can convert to a construction line or to a regular vector line by hitting X on your keyboard. See, right now we have a regular line, and I hit X, then it turns into a construction line. All right, so let's trim this excess away. That's the wrong way. I don't know why we did that. Okay. Go here, go there. That's what we want. Now let's trim this off over here, and let's get our spline working the way we want it. And we'll get the select tool and move our points to where we follow our profile a little nicer. Now I know there's probably 100 ways to do this, but I have found this method to give me the best results, short of importing a specific airfoil, which, like I said, we'll talk about that later. But this works pretty well for me. Okay. And when you see how easy this is, you're going to be shocked. It's not a lot of mystery to this. Even when I first started using Fusion, or started learning Fusion, the wings didn't bother me as much as the fuselage did. The fuselage has a whole lot more parts to it that kind of make it a little more challenging. All right, so we're looking pretty good there. It's not perfect, and you can do whatever, you know, how perfect you want. The best way, the most accurate way, is to import a profile, a regular airfoil profile. But we're using this kit plan to create our model here. So now let's go and define all this. Which is, again, I had someone ask me why I defined all these, and I said, well, if you don't, you will, strange things are going to happen later on, and it's going to cause you a lot of grief. So fully define your sketches. I can't stress that enough. Every now and then there may be a spot that you don't have to, but you'll learn where. But I'm going to tell you, with airfoils, you gotta do that, otherwise you're in trouble. Yeah, I tried it without doing it, and I constantly had problems trying to get these things to work. So remember, here on these control point splines, we're defining the angles between all these and the lengths between our points. So there's two definitions to all these. All right, and this angle, yeah, this is slightly tedious work, but I can tell you that my part's accuracy went up by a huge amount compared to when I was 2D drawing. And later on videos, in later videos, I'm going to show where I'm cutting parts and more about how to control my light burn, what I do with light burn, to control my deals. Okay, so we don't need those. This should be 90 degrees, which it is. We need to define this. All right, so all those are good. Let's just let's define it from our origin, and that will help a lot. This point, there we go. And now again, we can turn the dimensions off and the constraints off, and then you can just see what our drawing looks like, and all of it is black, which is what we want. So we finished that sketch. Now this is kind of fun right here. What we want to do is, so there's a couple of ways to build these wings, and in this instance I'm going to build it with a dihedral built in. You could also build it flat and then rotate it. You just have to make sure you have a really good, in fact, I'll show that really quick. You have a really good rotation point. So what you can do, you can actually extrude this, and we're going to extrude it 24 inches out. And so there's our basic wing, right? And so we can start working from this, but the problem is this has no dihedral. So what you would do, you would hit M, or you could select up here to move copy. I'm going to hit M, and you can move type. I want it to be a free move, but I want to set my pivot point, and I have to set it in a way that's going to be in plane with the angle that I want, because if you set it in the wrong spot, you may get a sweep one way or the other, or you're going to get a weird rotation. So you have to pick a spot that is going to give you the right you know, in plane rotation here. So that part looks pretty flat, and then I'm going to rotate this, and we're going to go up 5 degrees, which is pretty close to specified. And if we look from the top, we look pretty good. Like, this didn't look like it twisted or anything. So that's one way, okay? And now I want to show another way and to create the same type of body along our construction plane here that we did earlier. So we're going to create a sketch on this construction plane, and we want to project. I'm going to turn the canvas off. We want to project basically this line, okay? Because that's the line that we use for our angle. I want to project that point. I don't want this line. I don't want that point, that line, and that point, okay? So I'm going to click OK. And the one thing about this method is this is the method you're going to use for making elliptical wings and sweeps, and it's a little bit, it's going to be a little more intuitive. So I'm going to draw a line now from this point right here, and I want it to be 90 degrees from that other line there, and I want it to be 24 inches long, okay? And again, I'm going to draw another line the same way here. Going to come out, make sure we're at 90, we're going to go 24, and you can lock in at 90 also. So there we go. Now let's, we really don't need anything else. We're going to finish that sketch, and we're going to go up here to create. And again, if you're doing swept wings or elliptical wings, this is the way you're going to have to do it. So we want to select our profile, which is that one. We want to change this to, like in this instance, you could go single path. But elliptical wings and swept wings, you're going to want to go path plus guide rail, okay? So I'm going to select path plus guide rail. We have our profile selected, and I'm going to select the path. This is going to be the path, and this is going to be the guide rail. So you have some other options here for extent, and you can go perpendicular to the path. But in most cases, what I do is go on full extents, which means it's going to go to the end of our path and our guide rail. So I'm going to click OK. Now, if we look at this in the head on, we have a wing with some dihedral. Now we do have this weird angle here, and I don't need this. Okay, I don't need my text to be bothering me. Sorry about that. So, but this end is correct, right? Because it's going to be perpendicular to our, to our flat plane of our, the fuselage here. This one, but we'll fix that later. No big deal. All right, so there you have it. There is our basic wing shape. So now we have to start cutting this up into the parts. Again, there's a lot of different ways, but here's one method that I often use. I'm going to turn our canvas back on, and I'm going to look at this from our root rib. So there's our wing going out to the left side of the airplane, and now we're looking at our root rib. And we have our leading edge is this piece right here, and we can look at the specs for that leading edge as far as the material specs, and it says 3/8 by 5/8. So it's 3/8 back from the leading edge. And what I want to do now, I'm going to create a sketch on the edge of this body, and I want this line. I didn't want to do the definition thing there. Sorry about that. I wanted to use the double line here, or the offset, and I want to move this back 3/8. Okay. And here you can put in your decimal equivalent. You can put in metric. You can put in fractions. I live in the U.S., and for some reason we use a lot of fractions, although I do use metric quite a bit. The trailing edge here is, what do we have? We got a 1-inch tapered stock and a 1/4 inch by 3/8 trailing edge. So that 1-inch tapered stock, so this is technically 1 1/4 from the trailing edge to the inside of it where it makes contact with the ribs. So I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to do an offset. I'm going to turn chain selection off because the only thing I want is this right here. And we're going to move that in 1.25, negative 1.25. And that's weird because that's what it shows. Is there something? Let me look at the center here. No, the center should be lining up that way as well. Huh. All right, I'm not going to stress too much about the measurements. I will just put it where it ends. This part looks like a dihedral brace, I'm guessing. Yeah, that's a dihedral brace there. And I'm going to click OK. And let's change this a little bit. I'm going to delete this line. All right, we're going to do that again. And one thing you will notice is a lot of plans, even though you may have it scaled right, and I'm not sure if I have this scaled exactly or not, but they don't always line up. And that's one of the reasons why I take old plans and draw them out again in 3D, so that way when I go to cut, all my parts fit perfectly. And that's the beauty of modeling in 3D. All right, so now we have our spars. So this is 1/8 by 3/8 on the spars. So we can do that here. I'm going to do a box and just kind of, we can do this 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, see, that looks right. It was 1/8 by 3/8. Is that what it was? I need more coffee this morning. Yeah, 1/8 by 3/8. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so that lined up right. Except I'm on the wrong side of things here. Let's I'm using a I'm using my laptop, and I have a keyboard that I use for it, but it doesn't have command on it. So all right, so there is our spar there and the top spar. And one of the things with spars is it's a little tricky when you're drawing any kind of spar on a curved surface. You have to imagine it, you're either going to sand away part of it to match the contour, or it's going to be below the surface of the contour. And in this instance, I am going to make it be sanded out of part of the contour, or sanded to the contour. All right, there we go. And let's make this line and this line on the same area, and let's go ahead and dimension this. We're not going to worry about the wing joiners or the dihedral braces at this time. They will be cut in later. The main thing we want to do is get our spars all cut out and trimmed. And the centerpiece has some sheeting on it, so I'm going to also do that, and I could do it after I cut out my spars. I think I will. Okay, so there we have all our spars drawn in there. Let's turn our canvas off now, and I'm going to use these sketches to create extrudes of these lines, all of these shapes. And you're going to see how I split this in a minute. And you notice we didn't go in plane because this is flat. Okay, let's just cancel that. All right, so let's do this. Let's go to split body, and nope, I don't want that. I want it split body, and we can split this, and the splitting tool is going to be this line and this line, to which will cut out our leading edge and trailing edge. So there that is. Now for our spars, we can do sweeps as well as, and we might just do that. I think I can. Or you can draw another one. And this is the one thing, when you do create the dihedral at the beginning, you have to, it gets a little tricky because nothing wants to go that direction. It wants to go in plane perpendicular to our end, our center rib, and not run up this plane with everything. But it's never a problem. Just like we split that, so that's no big deal. So what I can do, let's go back in there into this sketch, and I want to split this body again, but we don't want that tool. What I want to split it with, not that. Let's go here to surface, and I'm going to create extrude. I'm going to turn the chaining off, and we'll do it just like this. And as long as we clear all that, we're good. Okay, so I'm going to go okay there, go back to solid, split body, click on that center body, and our splitting tool is this and that, and click OK. And it didn't split it for some reason. Let's try that again. Split this, and splitting tool, that one. I don't know why it's not extending that. Oh, extend splitting tool. That's what we want. There we go. And say OK. Now that will create that. So now all we need to do, we're going to split this again right in here, and then we will make the spar slots. And like I said, there's several different ways to do that. So I'm going to create a sketch. I'll create a sketch on this plane right here, and we know that this is going to be an 1/8 inch up, 0.125. Say OK, and we're going to draw a square here. The dimensions that we have. Oops, that's supposed to be 3/8. And 0.125, click OK. Now, oh, I could have done that earlier and just created a loft between those two. I'll show you that method, which is probably what I should have done. I want this profile to go to this profile. It's going to cut, which is exactly what we want. We need to cancel that. This is incorrect. Let's go back to that sketch. There we go. And let's remove that. There we go. Yeah, I was making all that talk about the contours having to be sanded in this part here, and I messed up. There we go. That's what we want. Now finish the sketch. Go to loft, create loft between this profile and this profile. We want that to cut, which is exactly what we want. And now that's all cut beautifully. I'm going to turn off these bodies. Don't need them anymore. And we're going to repeat the loft between here. And you can do a sweep here too if you draw your guidelines. That's another way. And turn this sketch on, and we want that there, and we say cut. We say OK. There we have spar slots, but this middle piece is not joining the front and back. That's okay. We're going to go to combine and operation join and select the middle, select that, and now we join that. So there we have our slots for our spars, and we actually have our leading edge and trailing edge, which was very simple. And there we have that. So now let's create this end rib. A lot of instances, I don't know what the plan is speccing, but a lot of the instances the end rib is usually thicker than the outer ribs. Let's look and see what they spec as far as material here. It looks like it doesn't say what those ribs are. Huh. All right. Well, I'm going to go with 3/32 on my inner ribs and then 1/8 inch on my center ribs. That would be W1 and W2. All right, we can turn this off. Let's go home. There's our wing, and we're going to go right here. I'm going to create an offset plane from this face, and I want it to be -1/8. There, okay. And that will take care of that. So if I split body, I split this body with this plane. Now we have our end rib, just like that. Okay, now let's do our W2 rib. Let's kind of see what the spacing is there. I think I moved that top plane. Yeah, I did. Over to there. But that's fine. Let's I'm going to space it out with the width of the fuselage. So let's turn that off. Let's turn the fuselage on. Yeah, so I think W2 should fall in line with the edge of the fuselage, like right in here. I'm actually going to build a plane onto, or do an offset plane on the side of the fuselage. And we're going to click OK there. I'm not going to move it out. Let's turn our canvas off, and let's turn our fuselage off, and let's turn this other plane off. So we have the one, and I'm going to go split body, split this body with this tool, and there we have it. now let us do an offset plane from here. We can do it off of this plane, and I'm going to go negative 0.125, and then that will create that. Let's turn off this plane, and then we want to split this body with this tool, and we select OK, and there we have our two inside ribs that will get trimmed with later with the other stuff there. Okay, so one of the weird things I just did, and I just realized, is this is not right. You see, this rib should be perpendicular. It should be perpendicular with our, or in plane with our, perpendicular to our leading edge and trailing edge at that angle. And this isn't. So why did I do it that way? I'm doing more undos in this video than any other video before, but that's all right. Let's go to plane 1, and I'm going to create a sketch on this plane. Let's turn this plane off. I don't like this going back and forth because it makes a video hard to follow. I apologize. So here's our fuselage side, and we can, yeah, so this rib is going to lie there. What I want to do, I am going to go to intersect. And I want to intersect this body. And this is the body that I want to note to intersect. Now we can turn the fuselage off. And you can see there's our intersection with that. And that's actually 1/8 of an inch. And while we're here, we're going to actually, since we're on this plane, we're going to go ahead and sketch out all the rest of our ribs. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a line. First, let's project this edge right here. All right, let's do an offset. Let's do an offset with no chain selection, and I can't get that, so we have to project it. Project that. Say OK. Do an offset. And I'm going to do 3/32 ribs. So I'm going to go negative 3/64, and I'll show you why in a minute. There we go. So that's what we're going to use for our end plane. And let's get rid of this relationship of the, and I want to extend this line out past, yeah, I want to go just past the edge of all of this center body where we're going to make our ribs. Now let's go to rectangular pattern. We want this line, and we're going to move it along this path. And we want 7 ribs. You can specify the spacing you want between everything, or the distance, however you want to do it. That looks pretty good right there. And I'm just guessing here. You can do more math. So what I would probably do is, you know, have a way to measure between here and there to do that, or know what this dimension is. So right now we're going to 19.623 inches. Let's go 19.5 inches. And that looks pretty even between all that. And again, if you have your profile or your canvas profile here, you can actually space it and you'll see where the ribs all line up. But in this instant, this is going to work out fine. So let's finish this sketch. And what I want to do first, I want to make this W2 rib, and we're going to extrude, and we're going to extrude this profile. I'm going to come up through here, and I'm going to change this to intersect, and let's go 2 sides, just to make sure we get everything at the bottom, and we're going to click OK, and that's not how I wanted it. Oh, so before we do that intersect, or let's turn this leading edge off. Let's rename this, and let's turn the trailing edge off, because what Fusion sees is what you see, and that's what it will cut. There's our trailing edge, and we're going to turn that off too. Now let's repeat that little thing here. We're going to go here. We're going to come up to extrude, and here, and cut. We want to intersect. I'm going to go 2 sides just to make sure I'm good, and then click OK. And there we have our second rib. Now to cut out the balance of the ribs, we're going to go to extrude. Actually, that doesn't work either because it gets rid of that. Let us... I should have done this a little bit different. That's okay. I'm going to do it this way. Yeah, let's go in and edit this sketch real quick. I'm kind of doing things a little out of order that I normally do. Let's create a center line in here. There we go. Now let's go to our extrude. I'm going to select thin extrude. I'm going to go here, 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 here. Select all these lines, and going to go up and change this to intersect. I'm going to go ahead and do it 2 sides just to be clear that I have it all. And then let's change this wall thickness to our 3/32. Okay, and change this to symmetric. That way all these parameters match up and down. And we intersect, and there we have our ribs. And let's go here and turn our leading edge and trailing edge on, and there you have that. And let's go back to is it this sketch? Yep, that sketch and this sketch. We're going to create a loft. This is going to be for our spars. I'm going to select that profile. I'll come back over here, select that profile, and I'll want to go new body. Okay, then we select OK. There's our top spar. Or our bottom spar. Let's create our top spar. It's going to be this, and you're going to cut spars out of stock material versus the other way, so it's okay for selecting the curved part. I'm going to go here, and we can go, we want to go new body. There we go. Just like that. Okay, now you notice we have the right angle on this end spar, or this end rib right here, but none of this material is correct. It's kind of in plane with the other, with our true horizontal. So I'm going to create an offset plane on the end of this rib, select OK. I'm going to go right here to split body, and I'm going to select the bodies that I want to split, which is all our spars. And this one and this one. Our cutting tool is going to be this one. I'm going to select OK. I'm going to come in here, find out what these bodies are, and I am going to remove them. Let's turn our sketches off. Turn these off. There we go. Alrighty, so there you have it. That is the beginnings of a wing. And the next episode, we're going to talk about creating the center sheeting and creating our joiners, our wing joiners or dihedral braces, whatever you want to call them there. And we can talk about how to go about making this your ailerons back here, and even put some servo holders for our aileron servos. But hopefully hopefully this is being helpful for you guys. I appreciate it. Thanks. Make sure you like and subscribe and tell all your RC buddies about this channel. Thank you very much.